Tezos has no doubt been through quite a few ups and downs over the past 2 years. While it has been a contentious project, their recent development progress has got many people asking, has Tezos finally turned the corner? My name is Guy, and in this video I will attempt to answer that very question. So stick around for my in-depth overview. Now, as usual, you guys need to be aware of a few things. Firstly, what follows is not investment advice and should not be considered as such. Think of it as a tasty educational resource to add to your do-your-own-research soup. And if you're new to the Bureau, then I encourage you to subscribe and turn those notifications on. I do these videos regularly, so you'll want to get them the moment they hit the wires. Okay, enough of that. Let's get ready to tango with Tezos. Tezos is a blockchain built from the ground up. It's not based on any other codebase, and it's not a fork of an existing blockchain. Tezos wants to create a blockchain that allows for smart contracts like Ethereum, but it has its sights set on being future-proof and secure with a community-driven, decentralized consensus method. The Tezos project plans on building a blockchain far superior to what Bitcoin and Ethereum have to offer. For example, the Tezos blockchain requires much less mining power than Bitcoin, but still operates a proof-of-stake consensus process that project refers to as liquid proof-of-stake, or LPoS. More on that in a bit. For now though, let's take a look at how Tezos works. Tezos follows the same rules as other blockchains and works the same way. There is, however, one key difference: how changes or additions are incorporated into the Tezos blockchain. It's basically a self-amending ledger with on-chain governance. Self-amendment helps in upgrading the blockchain without undergoing a hard fork. It goes like this. First, a developer suggests an upgrade or change to the Tezos blockchain. When they do, the developer can also include an invoice. If the proposal is approved, the developer receives payment in Tezos coins called Tezzies. The intention behind this is to drive developer participation while also decentralizing the development and maintenance of the Tezos network. This also drives development speed on the platform itself, since developers work on what interests them and not what the project or team dictates. Formal mathematical algorithms are used to validate that none of the blockchain's key properties change during an upgrade. As a result, Tezos can rapidly evolve while still maintaining the integrity of its blockchain. Tezos thinks of itself as a major blockchain project, so it markets itself as a reliable alternative to popular blockchains like Bitcoin, Lisk, and Ethereum. The question is, what features does Tezos have to offer that sets it apart from these other, more recognizable blockchains? Well, for starters, Tezos is designed to offer safety and security within smart contracts. With its native smart contract language, the project boasts the type of communication often used in more critical markets. Next, the project offers long-term upgradability with its formal upgrade and modular architecture mechanism. This allows the Tezos network to adopt new emerging technology as it is proposed. This, along with on-chain invoicing, allows the network to remain on the cutting edge without worrying about community consensus. Lastly, Tezos offers an open participation platform. All stakeholders have the ability to take part in network upgrades. This can be done through proposing, evaluating, or approving suggested amendments. All stakeholders help to secure the Tezos network either by baking or delegating. And speaking of baking and delegating, let's now talk about the Tezos consensus mechanism. To develop and enforce its smart contracts, Tezos uses a unique consensus mechanism to set itself apart from projects like Ethereum and EOS. The project developed its own version of the delegated proof-of-stake model, which it calls liquid proof-of-stake, or LPoS. Through this model, owners of Tezzies can delegate the rights to verify transactions without transferring ownership of the coins. It's at this point that Tezos differentiates itself. Instead of requiring a fixed delegate group that produces blocks to achieve consensus, Tezos makes delegation optional. With LPoS in place, Tezos believes it can make its on-chain governance system stronger. But what does baking have to do with it? Well, with Tezos' liquid proof-of-stake consensus model, staking is done through a process Tezos calls baking. Instead of solving complex cryptographic algorithms, the Tezos platform chooses the rights to bake based on the owner's stake. A baker commits token deposits, then receives their rewards for signing and creating blocks. Bakers who behave in an unacceptable manner are likely to lose their deposit. Now, just like with the voting rights, Tezos' LPoS model allows for users to delegate their baking rights as well. Again, delegation of baking is not required and is simply an option if users don't want to participate. Tezos expects that the architecture behind its LPoS baking system will help prevent voting coalitions who may attempt to dominate the network. The intent is to redistribute Tezos to as many users as possible, which will prevent power from becoming too concentrated. Confused? The LPoS consensus mechanism can be difficult to wrap your head around. For more info, check out the links we've provided below. It should help clear things up a little. When it comes to throughput, liquid proof of stake allows the Tezos network to process about 40 to 50 transactions per second. This is more than double Ethereum's current level of between 15 to 20. This is just the current TPS limit, and the theoretical limit is much higher than this, though of course theory is always different from practice. Now, as mentioned, Tezos is a development blockchain, which means that third-party developers can use its smart contract standards to develop decentralized applications, or dApps. Although it's still a relatively new project compared to the competition, there have still been a few dApps that have been built on the Tezos network. Take a look at a few of them here. When it comes to coding these smart contracts, Tezos uses Michelson, which is a low-level language that manipulates the stack. For those devs who want a custom compiler, they can use the liquidity language. Tezos will also release the LIGO programming language, which was custom built for Tezos' Layer 2 scaling solution. This will be a much simpler smart contract language when compared to Michelson. So you could think of this as akin to Solidity on Ethereum. Now, of course, this could make Tezos less easy to use when compared to alternatives like Lisk, Neo, and EOS that use popular languages to code their smart contracts. We will have to see how easy LIGO is to learn and use when it's finally released. If you want more info on developing on Tezos, then I've linked to numerous resources below. Anyways, moving on, let's talk about Tezos' native cryptocurrency. The Tezos ICO took place in July of 2017, raising $232 million US. At the time, Tezzies were sold for 47 cents apiece, and the project accepted both Bitcoin and Ethereum contributions. Tezzies are an important part of the Tezos ecosystem, as they're used to economically incentivize the bakers who protect the network. Tezos typically ranks in the top 20 of all coins on CoinMarketCap, and these Tezzies were assigned the XTZ ticker on the exchanges. There's currently a total Tezzy supply of just over 801 million, with a bit over 660 million in circulation. Something that I did find quite encouraging is that Tezos remains one of the few ICOs of 2017 that has had a positive return for its contributors. The market has reacted positively to its mainnet launch and subsequent developments. But enough about prices for now. Let's discuss the numerous stakeholders and people behind the Tezos project. Tezos actually had its start a few years ago in 2014 when Arthur Brightman published 2 white papers pointing out Bitcoin defects and outlining Tezos. Arthur is a computer scientist and entrepreneur who primarily worked as a financial engineer prior to his involvement with Tezos. Then in 2015, he and his wife, Kathleen Brightman, started Dynamic Ledger Solutions. This was a Delaware-based company that owned the rights to the Tezos source code. Kathleen also has a pretty impressive resume and worked for R3 and Bridgewater Associates, both financial companies, before founding Tezos. The Tezos Foundation is a Swiss non-profit that was run by Johann Gevers. The foundation conducted the ICO on behalf of the project. Now, unfortunately, a lot of infighting occurred within the project after the conclusion of the ICO. I won't go into the specifics here, but it revolved around this Gevers chap and the founding team. This infighting became public and caused a lot of issues for the project. Some investors decided to initiate a class action lawsuit, and of course the media reaction was none too friendly. This all caused a delay of the Tezos mainnet launch. Anyways, this is now all behind the project and Gerver's got the boot. The Foundation's current president is Ryan Jespersen, who has a background in fintech, with a degree from Brigham Young along with an MBA from the Fouquet School of Business at Duke University. The Tezos Foundation is an entity designed to support the Tezos ecosystem and protocol. Another really important backer of the Tezos project is Tim Draper. For those who don't know, Draper is perhaps one of the most prolific venture capitalists in the crypto space. So, not only does Tezos have a large stash of funding for future development, but it also has some star power in its advisor pool. Let's move on now and take a look at the markets for Tezzies, shall we? XTZ is a pretty popular coin among traders and does well over $20 million of volume a day. The coin is traded on many well-known exchanges including Binance, Coinbase Pro, CoinEx and OKX. XTZ does more than $1 million in volume on each of these platforms, which means you'll have no problems with liquidity. This is also great for price discovery as it means that traders have more markets to bounce their orders between. When it comes to storage, there are several wallets that support Tezos. If you're looking to bake your coins and help secure the network, then you will probably use the likes of a hardware wallet or the Tezos command line. Either way, we've put together a list of the top Tezos wallets that you can find linked to in the description below. So then, what do I think of Tezos? Well, I think that it's a creative, innovative and unique blockchain that has a lot going for it. It was built from the ground up, which is not all that common in the blockchain world. The LPoS consensus mechanism is unique and refreshing, a viable alternative to the status quo in proof-of-stake blockchains. I also like the fact that the project wants to avoid any of the political divisions or hard forks often seen in other projects. You only need to look at examples like the Bitcoin fork and the Ethereum fork for some notable examples there. With its blockchain, Tezos would give the blockchain industry a way to improve and evolve without needing complex upgrades, which is in and of itself a valuable feature to have. Of course, the project has its challenges as well, the biggest of which is probably the most obvious, which is the infighting and delays that ensued post-ICO. You also have that class action lawsuit that was brought by some who took part in the ICO. However, it appears as though the project is out of the woods on the civil cases. I mean, the contributors have, after all, had a pretty impressive return on their investment. Another challenge for Tezos could be some of the competition that it's up against. Since its ICO, there have been a number of projects that have built their own developer platforms. These include the likes of EOS, Neo, Lisk, the Open Access Network, etc., etc. The list goes on. Then, of course, you have the premier smart contracts blockchain in Ethereum, which is about to launch its much-awaited proof-of-stake consensus mechanism. Could this give Tezos a run for its money? All things considered though, Tezos is a compelling project. It could solve many of the problems that today's blockchains face, which gives it the fortitude it needs to hold its own. It looks as though the project is shrugging off its initial controversies and putting the past behind it. For that reason, and several others, it will be a project that I will continue to keep my eye on very closely. And that, my fellow crypto fans, is my review of Tezos. Yet now I need you guys to do the talking. What do you think of Tezos? Any other projects you want me to take a look into? Hit me up below. And finally, if this review was to your liking, then let me know. And don't forget to subscribe. You'll be seeing more of me very soon.